You are listening to The Thought Leaders Show with the world's cutting-edge, hottest innovators, influencers, and impact makers today. If you are looking for inspiration and motivation, listen in. Welcome to The Thought Leaders Show. Now, here's your host.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Dr. Anastasia Chopelas. She has helped create hundreds of medical miracles, help people who were told there was no cure to become well. She accomplished this by combining her knowledge of quantum and vibrational physics with her skills as a master healer to develop powerful protocols. She heals and teaches others how to heal with her Scientific Healers Academy. You may find her through her radio show, Scientific Healing, blog articles, best-selling books, including The Diamond Healing Method, Get Healthy No Matter What Your Doctor Says, and through her social media presence. Welcome.
Hi, Tammy. I'm so delighted to be here.
Well, I'm really excited because you are someone with such a unique combination of talents, and I love it, the scientific healer. I love that mashup of science and healing. So my first question I'd really like to ask is, who do you help?
Well, I have given that question a lot of thought because over the years of having this business, I've gone to a lot of marketing classes and they say, who's your avatar? And I don't heal any one kind of thing, and I don't work on any one kind of aspect, and I don't even seem to have one strength more than another. But the most common characteristic of people that come to me are ones that are not willing to tolerate a second-rate life. In other words, they want their health to be functioning at optimal levels so they can enjoy every moment of every day. They really need to operate because they either run big businesses or they put a lot of demands on themselves. So it's anybody who wants to up-level whatever they're doing. And so, I can't say, well, I work primarily with business owners, even though I have a lot of business owners, or I work primarily with people that are in one particular career because it's a cross-cut. But it's really people that are not willing to live second rate. They've got a lot of pain, they're taking medications, they don't feel good, they don't have any energy, they've been through chemotherapy, or they're working with, to get rid of their cancer, whatever it is, those are the people that come to me. Those are the ones that are primarily coming.
So when you're working with people, you said it's people who maybe they've been in pain for a long time, and traditional doctors aren't finding or helping them. So what is it that makes what you do so different?
Well, first, what makes me different from a doctor is that doctors will use their laboratory results and blood tests and x-rays and everything. They're really, really helpful, but they actually find things that have been in process for a very long time. Like some cancers will take 30 years to show up, or to show up in a doctor's test. But I can actually see how energy shifts in a body. I am, like 6 ways psychic, and I can actually watch what's going on in someone's body as soon as I focus on it. I can't just read you. I have to really focus. But as soon as I focus on it, I can see what's going on and correct the problem so it never really develops. Or even correct an old problem. Some people have suffered for 40 years with the same thing. I had a lady who had an immune deficiency for 40 years, And for the first time in 40 years, her, gamma globulin levels were normal, and she didn't have to take antibiotics all the time. And she says, I can't believe that my life is this different now. But she had been to every specialist, she says, I did everything but sit under a pyramid. So, it's that kind of thing. So that's the one thing. The other thing is that I've taken a lot of training from different healers, and I've read dozens and dozens of books. I don't know all the big ones now. I know a few, but I don't generally follow them because healing is the same for everybody. And what I've done is actually start to think about when somebody was complaining about something, and I thought, well, what if I were a scientist, what would I do? If I had an instrument, what would I do? And then I create that energetically. So I've developed things like an energetic stem cell process, a way to regulate hormones diurnally, a way to protect yourself from outside influences, all based on scientific protocols. So that is what's really unique about me relative to other healers. So
you actually create the instruments energetically to do the
Correct.
work. Oh.
And the processes energetically, yes. And the interesting thing is that I know they work because when the people go back to their doctors, exactly what I wanted to create actually happens. And then they get their blood tests and their x-rays and their, MRIs, and the changes that I put into them actually happen. I have a very high success rate with that.
So you can actually go get the blood work or the x-ray or the MRI, and it proves that what you corrected actually got corrected because everything comes back with different results. So is that the thing where the scientific part comes in?
Yeah, well, no, the scientific part is me taking an energetic protocol. So a lot of healers will send healing energy to you, which is a high frequency energy, but they don't tell the energy what to do, like what to create. And what I do is I tell it what to create. And I tell it what to create based on science. I know a lot about physiology, biology, biochemistry, chemistry. I have a very broad scientific background, and I use that information to create the healing. So it's very different. And I have classes where I teach people these protocols and why in a really simple way. I used to teach physics at the university level from people that couldn't use equations. I taught it conceptually all the way, so I could explain complex quantum mechanics to my mom, for example, who was an artist, all the way up to graduate level sophisticated physics. So I have a really good handle on how to explain things simply so they can see it and they can understand, oh, that's how that works. And then when they go to apply those protocols, they have those images in their mind, and they can do that for other people. I taught one healer who had never done a physical healing, only emotional healing. She had been healing for 20 years and was very powerful clairvoyant. And so I taught her what to do to help heal. She had a client with cancer, how to heal that person. And in 2 weeks, her tumors had shrunk by 60%.
Wow, 60%. So you're able to teach other people through your academy, and quite a few of the listeners are healer type people. So I'm sure they're all will be listening a lot. And you also have a radio show called Scientific Healing. Can you tell me a little bit more about your radio show?
So in my radio show, it's not just about different, different healing. It's like I'll pick a topic. So this month's topic is, a lot of healers and a lot of people that are into that kind of vilify conventional medicine. But what I want to do is actually unify it because it has strengths that healers don't have and vice versa. So my radio show is I bring on doctors and healers, but I also bring on business people because a lot of healers run businesses and they can't afford to live on what they earn from it. And I have, because I have a very practical mind, and I've also spent, I don't know, it's going on 45 years now programming computers. So I know what's possible in the realm, and I can teach people how to run their own business and make decent money. Like usually what I make in a month, they make in a year. And, it's just knowing the language, how to speak to people, knowing how to find clients, how to get them to work with you, and how to package their offerings. Like some people just work once an hour. They just like somebody will hire them for an hour, and I tell people I don't do that. And so I usually sell them a package, and I explain why I don't do that, and by giving them that kind of knowledge. So I bring on marketers, I bring on copywriters, and so on to help heal their businesses. Because really, right, it's really a problem for a lot of people that are in spiritual type businesses. Like there's something wrong with asking for money, and there isn't.
I know it's interesting that you're talking about that because I have found that very true, that a lot of people in the healing professions, they don't seem to make a very good living. And I've even told people about, gee, here's some advice. Let's put together a package of your services, and they'll act like I'm, crazy that I want them to package it and offer something a little bit different than that, hourly, okay, I'll do this for an hour with you. And that's interesting.
Well, so when you heal someone, it's an actual energy exchange. So, we have heard stories where we met, we heard stories about how when somebody gets a scholarship to something, they don't value it nearly as much as when they pay it. It actually works. It actually works energetically too. I have done charity work with people, and the results aren't nearly as effective as if they paid. And that's because the universe recognizes, and I don't know how to say it. It's that there's a recognition somewhere in the subconscious of the person. I paid a lot of money for that, therefore it must be valuable. And when I started charging more, I got a better quality of clients, and I got better results. And my clients were really happy. And now all of the clients that come to me are all by referral. And I can just keep going like this without doing any advertising or any Facebook or anything, and make a very decent living just off referrals.
Well, that is really a sweet spot to be in, because number one, when it's a referral, you have that implied third person credibility from whoever did the referral. And of course, you wouldn't be getting referrals unless you were the real deal, because people definitely know, especially when you're talking about the type of work that you do. You're talking about something that people can't see necessarily until they feel it.
Yes. Well, they don't have to even feel it. It just happens. So I'm going to, pull back a little bit. When you go to a doctor and you get a prescription, the percentage of people actually receiving benefit from the medication is way lower. I mean, it's abysmally low compared to the success rate that I have with helping turn that around. I've gotten one gentleman, he's lost 85 pounds since I've known him. He's lost 85 pounds and has gone off 9 medications that used to cost him, after insurance, $900 a month. And,
wow.
He's in his mid-60s. It's not like he's young. He's in his mid-60s. So when something like that happens, and I have another gentleman who was about to go in to get a kidney transplant. He has now functioning kidneys, and he just turned 70. So, I have that, and that guy, the 70-year-old, I've been working with him off and on for about 4 years now. He and it's by his choice. He says, I don't want to go longer than 2 months without having at least a half an hour checkup. It's by his choice. He doesn't need me anymore. He just likes the idea of me making sure nothing happens. But he, it was a family problem. So it was a family problem. His mother died of kidney failure at the age of 67, and he came to me when he was 66, and he says, I don't want to die. And he's been going to doctors, it's a family problem. He's been going to doctors for decades for this, and, they couldn't help him. So, people say, well, what's the guarantee that it will work? Well, it's a lot higher than going to a doctor, but you're still paying for that. There are co-pays and and then what people don't even realize is that when you go to a doctor and you've got your health insurance, they're lulled into a false sense of security because you have a $1 to $2 million cap, and one disease or one car accident can take you out. And then you start diving into all the assets that you have. Your assets aren't protected.
That's interesting
all those
because
over.
I don't think people realize, I've seen those caps, and now that you mention it, it never really hit me that those caps are not that much in the scheme of a catastrophic illness or accident. $1 million seems like
a lot. Yeah.
But it's really not.
I had a gentleman who had liver cancer, and he went through a four injection chemo with his doctor. Each shot cost $250,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, right, and I had one lady who went in for a brain surgery to remove a benign tumor out of her head. And the first operation failed, but she still had to pay a $45,000 copay. I mean, $45,000, that would have been like 4 years of treatments from me.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is really amazing when you think about it. Like I said, in my mind, until you said that, I had never really even equated that $1 million wasn't really that much. And that way, if you had a cap on your insurance, what would happen later? I just never thought about it.
Yeah, on average, people use up $2 million in under a year with one illness. Yeah, so just, yeah. And then you don't have the options for treatment anymore.
You've been doing this you said, how long have you been doing this type of work? It was quite a long time.
Yes, 25 years. I have I started out with Reiki, and that was after I had discovered that, so I'm 65 now, and I discovered when I was 30 that I had psychic abilities. And then when I was 40, 41 or so, I knew that I could move energy. And then I started studying different healers and trying different things, either out of books or in classes. And about 6, 7 years ago, I started studying with a lady who was doing things a little bit differently than other healers. And then I took that work and built on it. Like I built a whole body of work on top of that because it wasn't quite as effective. So in the last 5 years, say 4 or 5 years, I've done this full time. I retired from the university at the age of 60, and I've been doing this full time since.
So you said that you discovered that you had the psychic abilities when you were in your 30s, and then that you could move energy in your 40s. why do you think you didn't have those realizations until 30 and 40?
Because I didn't know that other people couldn't do it, for one thing.
Oh.
And then it wasn't, it's not really obvious. Like, I remember thinking to myself, like, I realized I was telepathic, and then a lot of events in my past started to make sense. Like, where did I come up with that answer? Like, a teacher would ask me a question and I would answer, and it would be the right answer, and I knew I didn't know it. Right? It was like very bizarre incidences, and I thought, well, maybe I just was guessing smart. but then what would happen is, like, people would come towards me and I go, oh, that guy's going to ask me if it's okay for this. And then he would. And I think, oh, well, that's kind of obvious. But then I discovered one guy, I lived in Germany, and we spoke German with one another all the time. And we would start sentences exactly the same way over and over. So finally he says, okay, what number am I thinking of from 1 to 10? And I got it. And then he says, okay, we're going to make it harder. How about from 1 to 100? And I got it again. And then he says, well, I wasn't thinking 55. I go, no, what I heard was 5555555. And then he got, like, really upset. But I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I actually heard it in my mind. And so I realized, you don't test yourself for that stuff. You just don't, unless you can see energy. And I don't see it. I see it in my head. I don't see it. I just, like, focus on something in my mind, and then it shows up that way for me. And that's a common way of a clairvoyant to see things. So, yeah, that's why I didn't see it, because, things happen around you, and it seems like coincidence until you add them all up, and then it's no longer coincidence.
I think that's a really interesting and a really cool way to explain it. Now I understand when you said that you could explain things in a very simple, easy to understand way, because a lot of things in life, and we think other people think the way we do. We think people know the same things we do, and I know sometimes I'll explain something or say something, and people, I can tell that it's like, oh, Tammy, be quiet. You're going to make my head explode, because they don't see everything that I see. And I always thought the same thing when I was doing well. I just thought, oh, I must really be a good guesser. and then you later discover, no, you actually have these unique gifts and abilities. And I just found that so interesting when you said that you were already 30 and 40 years old, because, again, many people think that these are innate things that we know we have at a young age, but obviously we don't always understand what we have until, we develop and mature.
Yeah, well, a lot of the people that realize it really young, children that have been through a very serious illness, a lot of those gifts come alive, and then they'll have actual, like, it'll be almost auditory or visual, that they'll see things. My daughter could see things, so this runs in my family. Everybody has skills. And this is multiple generations. Like, we know that my great grandmother could do it, and all the way down the line. And they all emphasize different skills, but everybody has these skills. It's built into our biology. We do have them. The difference between what I experience and what someone else experiences is that the way our energy fields work, all of the electrical activity in our body and all of that energy that's in our body will also create these fields around us. And the way it works is that the more that's in your way, it's like white noise. It's like when you're trying to watch TV in the old days and there was a lot of snow and you're trying to make out the picture behind the snow. And that's how most people experience those things. And when you can calm the snow down and tune into it, it's like changing the channel on your eyeballs or your brain or wherever you're getting that information. As soon as you calm the snow down, the picture gets clear. And we all have it, every single one of us. That's how we are designed. We are designed to interact energetically with each other. We have lots of things on our body that allows it. And there are physical structures in the body that correlate to these things, like what people call chakras. These are these energy receptor areas. There are a collection of nerve endings and receptors that are congregated in those areas, and they're designed to receive. So they're designed to receive information.
Why do you think that this information, for example, the chakras and a lot of that, when, it gets into what I call the woo factor, where people think it's all woo-woo, when I listen to you describe it, and it's like, oh, it's just natural, normal, part of the science of being human. And where did it get into the woo? Do you have an explanation for how we got so separated from who we are?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with, let's look at the cultures. Like when you go deep into the Amazonian forest and you find some of these native cultures that are there, they're very spiritual. They know how to help you have your spiritual quest. They know how to bring that into being. That's part of their lives, and they are like truly caught up in it. And Westerners that have gone in and submitted to those have also had some really amazing experiences. So those things are not just imaginary. And then what happened because I used to teach the history of science, especially history of astronomy, like what the discoveries were out there. One of the things that happened in the 17 and 1800s is that we started paying more attention to the physical and less to the spiritual. And then when doctoring came into its own in the late 1800s, then they started throwing out especially in Western medicine, they started throwing out the midwives, because the midwives would provide a lot of spiritual and emotional support. And they would think, oh, well, we need to worry about the germs, and we need to worry about, taking care of them physically, when actually a lot of physical pains that people feel are based in their emotional makeup. And once we release that, for example, x-rays of backs show that people with back pain and without back pain have similar looking backs. So there's nothing inherent in the back structure, even if it's crooked or pinched or, whatever. There's nothing inherent in backs that makes them more painful, one more painful than the other. But as soon as you can relieve the emotional part that is connected to the nerves and the muscles in that area of your back, it relieves the pain. And so that got separated, like the physical and the emotional and the spiritual part of the human got separated from the physical being. And we're coming now full circle to the point where science and spirituality are meeting. So a lot of people that have been spiritual are looking more to science. And here I am, a scientist, and I've always been spiritual, but now I'm a scientist. That's kind of like my base makeup. And I'm moving into this healing area and saying, well, look, all this stuff is cause and effect. Like the pain in your back is cause and effect. It's not just structure. It's got there's many factors that contribute to how you feel. So now we're coming full circle. And that's why we got relegated into the kook category. But I'm the one that, I have like a 95% success rate, and chemo has like a 2% success rate, yet I'm the kook, right?
Well, so, I know that I would rather go to you than have chemotherapy, because everyone I've ever talked to who's had chemo all say it nearly killed them before
or
it
did
made
kill
them better.
And the ones you haven't talked to are the ones that actually died. Because I was working with a client, and her tumors had shrunk substantially after the first round, but mainly because she was working with me, and she opted to go a second round. And I could tell that her intestines, chemo kills the fastest growing cells first. And that's your bone marrow and your intestines. And that rendered her intestines unable to take on nutrition. And she died basically from malnutrition. Not from cancer, not from chemo.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so and a lot of people do say that. But yet if they do a bunch of alternative stuff, and if they live, that's counted as a success to the chemo.
So what are some of the misconceptions people have about what you do and the results it produces?
Well, some of the misconceptions are, first of all, that you have to believe in it. That you have to be like fully, I totally believe in it, as if it had something to do with placebo effect. So placebo effect is when you are given a pill and saying, this will heal this. And that's the power of the mind. The mind can actually create a healing, and it works 35 to 40% of the time. So, and that's not true with energy healing, because I've worked with people in a coma, and they came out of it with no brain damage, even though the doctors said they wouldn't live because the brain was too far gone. And I've worked with people's children, infants, 2-year-olds that were in another room, and all I did was talk to the mother, and their behavior changed dramatically. I worked with a full dementia client who did not know I was working on her. I was talking to her husband in a different room, and her brain woke back up. And it was good for 2 years until something else killed her. She was in her 70s and was a severe alcoholic. But so people that don't know I'm working on them still get well. And I have also done remote healing on somebody. They didn't know what time I was doing on it. And then later they'd call me, did you do a healing on me at 7:00 last night? Because all of a sudden I felt better. And so they didn't know when I was doing it. So that you don't have to believe in it. That you don't have to be a particular religion. You don't have to. And then some of the other crazy questions I get is, doesn't it come from the devil? Like, aren't you a witch? Going, oh, well, then Jesus must have been a witch, right? Because that's what he did. But he also asked all of us to heal. He said in the Bible, it says, these acts and greater you shall also do. And the charge is, the devil doesn't want us well. He wants us weak, if you believe in that. But let's just say that person says, aren't you from the devil? And the devil doesn't want us well. He wants us weak so he can tempt us. Because when you're weak, you can get tempted. And when I've been confronted with that stuff, I just say, there's nothing you can give me that I want, so go away, right? So, whatever it is, I don't need more power. I have plenty of power. I don't need more money. I'm good. I don't need whatever it is they're willing to offer you. You can manifest for yourself. So when you come from that position of strength, you don't need to worry about that. And then the last thing, a lot of people have put us in the woo-woo category, like, and one of the things that happens to a lot of healers is that they start speaking to one another, and they use a language that's kind of private, like it's a secret language. And this is actually good marketing. You can use a secret language, and then once everybody knows, you're all in the club. but you don't reach the people that need it. And my clients, I have worked with healers, but my clients tend to be like accountants, insurance salespeople, CEOs of big companies, seminar leaders. I've had a number of those. I still have one as a client. And so these are people that are really out in the real world, and they understood what I said to them. And they go, oh, that makes sense. So then they'd hire me kind of on contingency, like, are they going to feel anything? And after one session, they're sold. So,
well, that makes sense to me that people, when, like I said, when you take the woo out of it and you just talk to people about, hey, this is the way we are put together, and they can actually, go, oh, that makes sense. That it just seems like people would open up to it, because the religion, it's so funny that you use that as an example, because I think that, often this idea that things that are so natural are not of God, it's a weird perception to me, because of the fact that Jesus said, he basically said, hey, I can do this, you can do it too. I mean, that's putting it into today's language. So I always think that's
exactly.
Very
and
not
only can you do it, but you should.
Yeah. But so everything that you've been saying today, I'm listening to it and goes, yeah, sounds logical to me. so it's like, and I think of myself as someone who's, I consider myself to be someone who's intelligent, and yes, I am open-minded, but at the same time, I have critical thinking, so that I would say, yeah, that doesn't sound right, but everything that you are saying makes sense. And like you said, the science supports the healing. And I think that's what I really admire about what you do. And I, like I said, I love the name, the scientific healer, because it just makes so much sense to me, everything that you're saying.
My favorite proof was when I did work on the coma patient. I went to the hospital and he was hooked up to a bunch of meters and dials, and little ringy-dingy bells were going off all the time. And as I started healing his brain, all of the bells stopped ringing and the buzzers stopped and all the dials turned. And I'm going, oh, cool, I wonder what those things are. I wrote them down, and I went and looked them up later. And the main bell was in the intracranial pressure, which determines how much brain damage is going to happen. So as soon as I started working on him, the intracranial pressure dropped significantly. And here he was in a coma, and maybe he was aware, but maybe he wasn't aware of my presence. And so a lot of people think that I'm like a fairy that walks around with a magic wand and you go poof, and then you're instantly better. Now, anytime that happens, it reverts almost immediately. It'll go back to what it was before, because the same energetic circumstances are around you. You still eat the same food, you still talk to the same people, you still go to the same job. So whatever has happened in your life, whatever state of health you're in or whatever state of emotional being you're in has built up over a lifetime, and that is an inertia or momentum that keeps you going in that direction. So what I do is I shift you gradually, and the ideal length of time is 3 months. And that allows the body to heal naturally into a new energy state. And I also help people shift their diets, shift their habits, shift their thinking, improve their relationships, and so on. And that's what builds up to a healthy future. So I can work with you once and you'll feel good, but if you don't continue to work with me, for example, or any healer that's really powerful, like somebody I've trained, then they'll start to revert. So I don't do magic wand stuff, even though I could. I try and shift people. And so that was the case. I continually worked on him until he woke up 3 weeks later. And wow. He was better. Yeah. And he was better than ever. He was in his 50s, and his mother said that they have the best relationship they've ever had, because while he was under, I healed his past. I healed all of his past, because he had a very difficult past. and I just reset it energetically as if, we'd gone in and healed it. So when you heal your past, you not only heal your past, you heal basically generations of past, because on the other side, quantum mechanically, on the other side, there is no time. So when you heal one thing, you heal everything.
Wow, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, it's actually a very profound comment. It's a very, very profound comment.
It is. My brain, when you said that, I was like, I have to think about that and look at that and feel that, because it is. Could you repeat that again?
When you heal your past, let's say you had an event in your past, and it's actually something that's been repeated over generations. So the way our DNA works is that it's programmed, and we inherit our parents' programming, and we can reprogram it energetically. So when you heal your past, like something that's happened in your family, you heal everybody and you heal generations, because on the other side, so the energetic place that we go when we die, where our spirits go off this physical plane into this other plane of existence or dimension. And in that dimension, there is no time and there is no space. So when you heal one thing, you heal all of it.
That is absolutely powerful. If somebody wants to connect with you, how can they do it?
Well, there are many ways to connect with me. One is to go to scientifichealer.com and click on the contact button. Another way would be to write me an email, Anna, A-N-A, at scientifichealer.com. And a third way would be to call my voicemail at 310-692-4036. I'm in California. And I do consultations over the phone, online, through Skype. I have clients all over the world. And I also have classes that are all done online. And in the future, I'm planning on bringing people together every 3 months to, show people how to heal so they can heal each other and get healing from me and move forward that way. So that's how people can reach me.
Well, I certainly think that everybody should reach out, because it's just really, everything you said, like I said, makes perfect sense. Everyone, the book is called The Diamond Healing Method. Get healthy no matter what your doctor says. And you can go to scientifichealer.com and get more information. So, Dr. Anastasia, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the time you took, and you really did make it simple to understand, and I really thank you for that.
Oh, you're most welcome. It's been a total delight, Tammy, and I look forward to speaking again.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to the Thought Leaders Show. To get all past shows and to get all future shows, go to thoughtleadersshow.com.